Everything is finally working. You're getting closer, visible, maybe even recognized. And then you pull back. You delay, you overthink, you disappear. Not when things are falling, but right when they're about to succeed. Are you self-sabotaging, or are you protecting something? Your identity, your safety, your inner world. Big Dreams and Little Things is the podcast for creatives, freelancers, and solo entrepreneurs who want to move forward one small step at a time. You make the world richer and more colorful, and we're the community that keeps you creating. From an ever so sunny, fully blooming and beautiful Portugal, where today I am celebrating. I am Maria Wronski-Ellis.
And I am Karina Kampe, and I am calling in from quite a sunny Gotland as well, actually. I've been out biking in town today, and it's been pretty nice.
Welcome, everyone. Hello, Karina. How are you?
I am good. I am finally, not ill anymore. So that is wonderful. And I am quite a busy bee, to be honest. I am going from one place to another. And today I have been visiting one of the oldest houses here in Visby, Kapittelhusgården. I got a private tour and it was absolutely fabulous. It was the place where the bishop were living when he was in Visby in the medieval times. Because I have this Instagram account called Gotlands Guide, where I'm talking about Visby. And I've been doing all kinds of filming things now as a guide, doing stuff here in Visby. So I'm quite busy with that.
Exciting. Check out Gotlands Guide, is it?
Yep, it's Gotlands Guide on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Well, today, as this episode is airing, I am celebrating 16 years as married.
Wow, congratulations. I remember that day.
It doesn't feel like 16 years ago. Time just goes so quickly. It still feels like the me 16 years ago was quite a lot different. So I can still feel that chunk of time has passed by. But we have a lot of celebrations. This weekend, my two girls are in this musical, there are parties, and this is also episode 30 of Big Dreams and Little Things. Congratulations to you, Karina, to us.
And you, 30. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going into Act 2.
We are. But today, we're talking about why success can sometimes feel more uncomfortable than failure, and why so many creatives actually pull back right before a big breakthrough. And we explore the nervous system's response to being seen, how to trust your creative voice, and how to gently move from private to personal, shifting the question from what's wrong with me to what am I protecting? How do you feel about this, Karina?
I think that it's something that you always struggle with. It's kind of a mix between imposter syndrome and, the am I good enough kind of thing, and just change. Because sometimes, if you're doing something, you're changing. You're going from one phase in life to another, exposing yourself. So there's a lot of, oh shit feeling.
I think for me, looking for perfection, when I keep reworking rather than just pushing it out. It's finished, it's done, but I'm holding it because I'm scared of what other people are going to say. To go through that glass.
Yeah,
for sure. And it can be a fine balance.
You can get really hurt going through the glass ceiling.
You can get really hurt. Learn how to recognize it in yourself. We also do create, or I can only speak for myself. If you're actually just I want to share it with others. I don't want to just keep it for myself, even though that is, as a creative process, it's what I enjoy the most. It's like that being in that zone, in that creative process, in the flow. But I do want to share it. The thing is, I think when you're creating something, it becomes a lot of times so extremely personal. Yeah. It's like your children, you're protecting them. You don't want anyone to hurt them. But by doing that, then no one's ever going to hear it. I mean, I have a whole album that I worked so hard on, and I never put it out there fully. I was too protective.
Is that the
Bengal club music?
Club, yeah.
Exactly. I have like one track on Spotify. You know, I'm really proud of it because I produced everything myself and wrote it, and I was just not in the right place.
So may we see it or hear it soon?
I've said that this year is the year. I'm just going to put everything I've done out there, not necessarily to promote it, to push it, old stuff, but for my own sake. You know, it deserves to be out there because I spent so much time on it.
And it's also very important, I think, to say that, I mean, it's easy to say that, oh, just be brave and do it. Yeah, and then everything will be fine just because you're doing it. And that's not true. Sometimes you really crash and burn. I've done that. I've crashed and burned. And that scares you too, of course. But you learn too. There's this saying that they say, like, it takes 1,000 light bulbs for was it Edison to learn how to do the proper one. And it's a cheesy saying, but it's still true. You have to practice jumping as well.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about today, and trying to, I guess, get you as a listener to tune in and see if you're holding back something. Why are you? And is it the right time for you to release whatever it is you're releasing to the world?
And spotlight, I think, to see in yourself why you're doing it. I mean, it's perfectly okay. You don't have to expose yourself. No. You don't have to bring it out. You can do it for your own drawer. That's absolutely fine. But if you don't want to do that and you still do that, then it's time to look at, why am I doing it? Why am I not giving the world part of what I was given? That creativity, that wonderful thing. So I think it's about that. You know, you choose. But don't choose because of fear.
In this week's story, we are spotlighting a poet. She was way ahead of her time. Emily Dickinson was born in 1830 into a world where women had very clear limits on who they were allowed to be. This was an era when women couldn't vote, couldn't own property once married, couldn't enter most universities or professions. Their lives were expected to follow a narrow path: home, marriage, motherhood, quiet usefulness, nothing too loud, nothing too ambitious. A woman's value was often measured by how well she fit into that shape, how gracefully she could make herself acceptable. Emily Dickinson grew up in Amherst, Massachusetts, in a well-respected family. Her father was a lawyer. They had status, they had stability, and she had access to education that many girls at the time didn't. And she was brilliant. But brilliance in a woman at that time was complicated. It was admired, but also managed, contained, made smaller. By her 20s, Emily Dickinson made a decision that already set her apart. She was never to marry. Even that, in her world, was a quiet kind of rebellion, a refusal to follow the expected story. She stayed in the family home, and over time, she became more and more private. Eventually, she rarely left her room. To the outside world, her life looked small, quiet, almost invisible. But inside that room, something very different was happening. She was writing. Not occasionally, but constantly, with precision, with intensity, with a kind of focus that feels almost impossible to contain. Every night at 3 a.m., she would get up when the house was quiet, all allowed by her father, and she would write. Nearly 1,800 poems. She wrote about death, love, nature, doubt, faith, and identity. She wrote in a way that broke the rules of poetry at the time. Her dashes interrupting thought, her rhythms irregular, her language sharp and unexpected. She used slant rhymes, fragmented structure, and ideas that felt far ahead of her time. And yet, almost none of it was shared. Only a handful of poems were published while she was alive. And even those were edited, smoothed out, corrected, made more acceptable. Her original voice was changed to fit what the world could handle. The rest was kept private, folded, hidden in drawers, bound into small handmade booklets, and carefully stored away. It wasn't until after her death that her sister discovered them, this vast, astonishing body of work that had never been fully seen by the world. And it raises a question that still feels very alive today. Was she afraid of being judged, misunderstood, changed, or was she protecting something? Her voice, her inner world, the way she saw things, untouched by the outside opinion. Because maybe she understood something very deeply. Once something is seen by the world, it doesn't fully belong to you anymore. It can be reshaped, softened, made acceptable, sometimes even diminished. And in a world that often asks us to shrink, to explain ourselves, to become easier to understand, maybe she chose something else. Maybe she chose to keep her work whole, even if it meant keeping it hidden. Yeah, it does feel, like I said, introducing this story, that Emily Dickinson was way ahead of her time. And obviously, she grew up in a world where women didn't have much of a voice. And so I wonder really if breaking the glass ceiling was even an option for her. It might not even have been about pushing through, but it just wasn't acceptable at all.
I talked about this earlier today, actually, visiting the old house, that we have to look through the looking glass of that time, because it's easy to judge from our time, but our time is very different from when she lived. And I see that when I write about Victorine, my musical play. I have to look at her life from her perspective, from her peers. Because if I don't, I lose things. Then I would make judgment upon the life that I've had and the freedom that we have today that they didn't have.
No.
I mean, they lost their right to themselves, basically, when they got married.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds harsh, but, they were under their husband's protection. Before that, they were under their father's or their brother's protection.
And I think with Emily, she had a really, at the time, progressive father who let both of his daughters have an education, and he valued that. And I think she realized that if she would get married, she would lose that. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why she stayed unmarried, and her father actually allowed her to write.
When was she born?
1830 something, I think. Yeah, 1830. Exactly, 1830.
Okay, so that's 15 years before Victorine. She was born in 1844. So it's about the same time. And they're really pioneers, those women.
Yeah, for sure.
Because when we're coming into the 20th century and the turn of that century, things, the suffragettes and all of that, it's starting to. But these women so they made really the way for where we are today.
And I wanted to read a very short poem of hers.
Yes, please do.
It's called "Tell All the Truth, but Tell It Slant." Tell all the truth, but tell it slant. Success in circuit lies, too bright for our infirm delight. The truth's superb surprise. As lightning to the children eased, with explanation kind. The truth must dazzle gradually, or every man be blind. So I think she realized as well that her poetry was too much for the world she was in, for the time she was in.
Oh, so many women struggle with that.
Yeah,
I think.
Absolutely.
And especially in those times. Maybe the lines were clearer then than they are now. I don't know. Like what you could do and what you couldn't.
Yeah.
But I think that's still something that many women, especially women, fight with.
Yeah, I think
feeling,
so. And
I'm too much. I'm too emotional. I'm hysteric.
Yeah. And I think it's such a fine line as well between You wanting to be seen. I am an artist. I love being out there performing, but I also want to hide. I want to hide I want to protect, you know.
Yeah. It's a duality.
And I wonder, Karina, can you remember a time that you held back right before a breakthrough, or before you felt like something was going to go on?
Oh, absolutely. We've talked about it before,
we have.
when people have said, "Oh, this is wonderful. Can you send me a demo, or can you send me this?" And I didn't do it. Or, you know, I can remember as a young teenager just being in love and not saying anything, just looking at him and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of the same feeling. You're scared. So yeah. I can absolutely have that recollection and a feeling of, is it good enough? Is it good enough? Is it good enough? What is your experience?
I think what comes to mind for me is I had sent out a demo to a quite well-known producer when I was living in London. He was a soul muse, because I was doing sort of jazzy soul then. And I got an answer from him, and I got so excited, saying, you know, I love these 2 tracks. You know, can you send me something more in the same style? And did I ever send him that? No, I didn't. I don't regret it now. I think what you need to do is learn from it. Not regret, but to learn from the experience.
Yeah, I did the exact same thing. I was visiting a few publishers, actually. I had sent my demo, and then I got a meeting, and I just got home, I think, from the States, or it was just after that. And so I was kind of cocky, you know, and they were like, "Oh, okay, I like this. And we have, you know, this artist is looking for something. So, you know, you can send something in." Yeah. Went home and didn't.
And as always, we back all of our subjects that we're talking about up with science.
Yes, we do.
The nervous system and visibility. Your nervous system is wired for safety, not success. Being visible, sharing your work, your voice, your ideas can register as a threat. Not logically, but physically. Your body doesn't always distinguish between social exposure and actual danger, so it activates protective responses. Procrastination, perfectionism, avoidance, this isn't weaknesses, it's regulation. When your work reaches more people, the stakes naturally feels higher. Your system asks, is it safe to be seen like this? And if the answer is uncertain, you pull back.
Yep.
We know that.
It's a level. Yeah, you're walking up the stairs, you know, when you don't know something, you're at the first step. Well, take an example. When I started guiding, I am used to be on stage. I've been on stage for 30 years. I've been lecturing, that kind of thing. So standing in front of an audience for me is really not that big a deal. Mm-hmm. Of course, I get nervous, but it's not that bad. Mm-hmm. And then some of my classmates, you know, they weren't at all used to being in the spotlight like that. That was the big thing for them to just step up there and talk. The first time I did it, of course, it was scary. Mm. So as a beginner, you can't compare yourself to, you know, Sting or Ella Fitzgerald or whatever at their peak. Yeah. You have to compare yourself to when they were, you know, starting out. But now I'm maybe on step 3 or 4, and then, you know, the stakes are different depending on where we are on the stairs. So,
yeah. And I think it shouldn't even try, no, this is impossible, but don't compare yourself to others either too much. Try to stick with your own race. Am I better than I was yesterday? Am I better than I was? Have I improved? You know, I think that's more valuable to yourself.
Yeah, and get inspired by others.
Exactly.
Okay, science number 2. We all carry an internal identity. I'm still figuring it out. I'm not that kind of creative. I'm the one behind the scenes. And that identity feels safe because it's familiar. But success disrupts that identity, and that creates friction. This is where imposter patterns start to show up, not just as doubt, but as resistance, because stepping into visibility means outgrowing your old self and risking how others see you. And that can feel deeply uncomfortable. This is something that Susan Jeffers talks about, that fear doesn't actually disappear when you grow. Instead, every time you move into something bigger, fear comes with you. New level, new fear. Fear comes with you. You know, make it your friend. So the goal isn't to eliminate fear before you act. It's to expand your capacity to act with it, to recognize that the discomfort you're feeling is often not a sign that something is wrong, but a sign that you're stepping beyond what you've been. And that's exactly where growth begins.
So when we look at all of this, Emily Dickinson holding things back, disappearing right before something actually matters, I guess we need to learn to see if we're protecting our creative self or are we actually self-sabotaging?
Yeah, I think they feel similar on the outside but very different on the inside. Protection still has care in it. There's still a connection to the work, even if you're stepping back. Self-sabotage feels more like disconnecting completely, especially right when something is about to grow. But I think why are you self-sabotaging is interesting. Why are you doing it? Go to the bottom with it.
I think a lot of creatives, if not all, probably have that at some point or another.
Yeah, if you read biographies, you know, like Lill-Babs, one of the biggest Swedish artists, everyone in Sweden knows her. She was a pop artist in the 60s, 70s. When you read her book, her whole life, you know, even though she was so loved, but her self-confidence was so low.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, it's crazy.
I think that's very common, very common.
Yeah. And there are so many examples, like if you read biographies, but also people that do it anyway. In all our stories, we have a little seed of that. So what we're talking about is that it's really not about being fearless, because fear will follow you. It's about fear and being present with it, seeing what it's about, instead of fear and just running away. And building trust through small actions like sharing, showing up, noticing. That's how you teach your system that it's safe to do it, step by step by step.
Yeah, for sure. And it can be hard to do alone, because when you're alone, it's even easier, I think, to slip into this avoidance. And that's why creative confidence grows with, obviously, accountability. We've noticed that. And in a community where you're being supported, you're being seen, you're being heard, you feel like you matter and you create a trusted place.
Yeah, just like in this study that I'm doing, you know, the first interview, and I interviewed all the participants before we started the accountability sessions. And just by sitting for an hour and talking about all of these things, many of them came back with saying that, you know, just talking about it now makes me feel seen and now I want to go create. And I think that is so amazing. So community is essential. Yeah. And that is also why we are working on our international community. We're not going to share all of it yet, but it's a membership space for creatives that's all about accountability, community, and staying connected to your work in a steady flow. We'll share more with you soon, but we're really excited about it.
And now it's time for Backstage Community, where we shine a light on the creatives, freelancers, and solo entrepreneurs who make the world more colorful. And this week's guest is illustrator and painter Jenny Svenberg. Who are you and what do you do? My name is Jenny Svenberg, and I've worked as an illustrator and artist for more than 30 years. Occasionally, I'm also a pianist. Over the years, I've worked extensively with media, newspapers, and television, both as an employee and freelancer, as an illustrator, art director, and visual storyteller. For the past 6 years, I've been freelancing full-time, still working closely with news media, most often television. A large part of my work involves visualizing investigative stories, especially sensitive cases where the identities of vulnerable women and children need to be protected. In those situations, I create entirely different faces, environments, and visual interpretations to safeguard the people involved. Alongside my commissioned work, I've spent more than 15 years on a deeply personal project, drawing jazz musicians live during concerts. I attend on average one concert a week, and my wish is to draw as many musicians as possible before I die. So far, I've created somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 portraits of jazz musicians around the world, from Stockholm to Copenhagen, Paris, and New York. Sometimes these drawings become exhibitions or books. So far, I've published 3 books based on my jazz illustrations. The project has become a kind of contemporary documentation of jazz musicians, and the longer I continue, the more important it feels to keep going. It keeps me alive, connected, and filled with meaning. What keeps you creating? I work almost all the time, so the better question might actually be, how do you ever take time off? Answer, I never really do. I don't particularly enjoy holidays. I'm happiest when I'm working. What do you think more creatives should talk about? How we preserve what is unique and human, the analog, the deeply personal, the things that truly move other people. I find it worrying to see AI taking over more and more of the creative field, partly because AI often uses copyrighted material to create new images, but also because people are slowly beginning to accept culture made without a soul behind it. To me, culture should be flesh and blood, something deeply alive, something with real stakes. How do you celebrate your wins? I go out for a drink with a friend and I tell myself, you really did that well. Well, we think so too, Jenny. And thank you for making this world more colorful. We love what you do.
We're coming to the end of our show, but here are some takeaways from this episode. You are not self-sabotaging. You're protecting something. Find out what it is. Visibility can feel unsafe, even when you want it. Your nervous system needs support, not pressure. You don't have to go from private to public overnight. And small steps still count.
And what's your win this week? Even the tiniest one. We want to know. Connect with us at Big Dreams and Little Things. And if you like what we do, write a review on Spotify or Apple or where you listen. Or YouTube if you're watching. Thank you for listening to Big Dreams and Little Things.
We are Karina and Maria. And remember, show up,
speak up,
and never miss
the victory
dance.
Happy 30th.
The things that count, the things that make you happy is what life is all about. It's the little things that matter, that take you through the day. A smile from a stranger, that brighten up your day.